All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Starship Adventures. We're going to give it a few minutes for folks to get in here. And then we're going to take a little trip around and see what's going on this globe that we call Earth. This is the sights and sounds of Earth. This is on Starship Adventures. My name is Ian, and I'm glad you guys are all here tonight. For the one or two of you who found us already. But we'll get there. Just give it a few minutes here. And let me get signed into my dashboard so I can see you guys coming in and I can respond to you correctly.
Live chat.
Yes, babe.
Look at them two. What? What got it? So it's like a real public place. Like it's the airport's right, doesn't it? And you know like what the cops were? This is what the
Okay, guys. Yeah, we're just giving people a few seconds to get in here. Thank you guys for coming in. Popping in pretty quick tonight. We've got all kinds of stuff going on out here. We do have right now, let me see if I can, oh, there we go. That's the frog cam right now, live right here. And believe it or not, that's right outside the studio. We've got these big frogs. They're so big, they form their own union.
I'll put my two shorts in from earlier. One's up close with them and one is me holding one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, we've got, she's got a couple of shorts she's going to put in that came out really good with these frogs. Let me go ahead and hit this button. They're toads, really. I call them frogs, but they're toads. And I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit. These things are absolutely huge. And look at them. There's a little bit of cat food in the bottom of that bowl. That's what they're fighting over. That's literally 3 frogs fighting over cat food. They eat so much cat food, I think they meow. But look at those things. It's hard to see the size, but they're huge.
I'll have one in my hand.
Yeah. So, and if you go look at her shorts, you can see
Check.
she's got one.
The first one I put in there
Oops.
is up close, and the one I'm putting in now is me with one in my hand.
Yeah. She's putting links to her shorts on that so you guys can see it. Anyway, yeah, if you guys, I'll go back. We'll check that camera out from time to time tonight. I want you guys to see the big frogs. Once it gets dark, there'll be about 20 of them out there, and they get downright indignant.
Bigger than a Whopper.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger than a Whopper sandwich, like from Burger King.
The one I had today was.
Look at these things. There's literally a frog fight going on.
No.
First rule about Frog Fight Club, don't talk about Frog Fight Club.
I'll be putting more food out for them.
Yeah, we'll put some more food out so you guys can check that out in a few minutes. There'll be 20 of them out there. There'll be a feeding frenzy, and there'll be cats involved, and it'll be great. All right, so in the grid tonight, upper left, that's me. Hello, everybody. My name's Ian, and we are live tonight in Starship Studios. And in studio tonight, we've got Simplex Radio, and we also in studio tonight have my wife, Carlotta Alada. She's over there driving, commanding, and otherwise responding to people in the chat room on the frog cam. So she is live over there, and you guys can chat with her as the sun sets here in the next 10 or 10 minutes or so, and it's going to start getting dark. We've got a big spotlight right over this spot right here. So between the cat food that spills off the table and the fact that we put a bright spotlight out here, there's plenty for them to eat. They love the bugs that the bright spotlights bring up. So anyway, but yeah, that's the frogs. Anyway, on the grid, lower right, we've got a shot of Earth from the International Space Station. That is a live shot from the ISS. And then on the right center, we've got a bunch of different views from Israel and from the Middle East. And in the top right, we've got, of course, everybody knows by now, that's the Tel Aviv skyline. And we've got that going on as well. And then on this other one here, this is called the Iran protest, no war with Iran protest. It's in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, they're broadcasting this in upright mode, but yet they've got the phone in landscape mode. I don't know how that happened. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wonder what repeater that was. Let me go back up to 520. There shouldn't be a repeater on 500. Anyway, all right. So so I basically turned it so you guys could watch it. We're probably the only people putting this out in the proper format. But this protest is going on, and they're protesting the situation with Iran. I don't know. I always wonder how the people that start the war end up getting all the people that go to bat for them. I don't understand that exactly, but whatever. Can you do me a favor, buddy? That computer right there, end stream on that, and X out of it, X out of that the broadcast. End stream, X out, and then restart the computer. There's something wrong with grid tracker, so I'm just going to go ahead and restart that whole machine, and we'll start it back up in a few minutes. We're going to take the FT8 machine down for a few minutes, and we're going to start it back up again. And we've got a bunch of different streams coming out of here tonight. We even had Simplex Radio coming out of here last night for a little while too. We have high-speed fiber optic internet here, and we have the ability to broadcast 8 consecutive streams. Thank you everybody for being here. My name's Ian. This is StarShip Adventures, and thank you everybody that's coming in. And there's not a lot to talk about tonight, so we're going to hang out and talk for a little while, and then we're going to end the stream if nothing happens. I am watching for breaking news. I am watching for things to happen out there, and we'll see if anything comes up. I got to tell you guys right now, it is pretty quiet out there. Other than the Iran situation, which there is no internet in Iran right now. Just so you guys know, most of Tehran has no internet service at all, and much of Iran is internet blackout right now. We're not sure if it's an outage that was caused by the bombing that's been done by Israel, or the bombing that was done by the United States, or if the outage is due to the government there turning the internet off. We're really not sure exactly which is which. Guys, don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. Was it not restarting?
It's not ending stream.
It's locked up. That's what I figured. Okay, so underneath there, it's the second computer over. Just long press the front button on it.
I'm just gonna restart it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, if you can get it to restart, just restart it. That's perfect. Okay, and I would like to, this latest crash was brought to you by Bill Gates and his amazing Windows system that runs so clean. All right, I'd use Apple, but I can't afford it. I'd use Linux, but I can't understand it. So I'm stuck with Windows. Hey, Windows! I like Windows. I ought to be honest, as much as I bitch about it, what are you going to do? I mean, there's really nothing better. What are you going to do? Oh, they're changing the onboard camera configuration. Here we go. 198. You quit Windows in 98. Well, I will say 98 was a decent version of Windows. 95 was terrible, but 98 wasn't bad. And then there was some crap in between there. And, you know, if you get into a bad operating system, it really turns you off to it. But the truth is Windows 10 is pretty good. Now, I've heard some bad things about 11. I have a video out that's a little dated now, but when 11 first came out, I started looking into it. I had a friend that put it in his system, and we went over there and configured it. And I wasn't happy with it. It makes you get an account. You have to go through a workaround to get out of that. There's a lot of things about Windows 11. The biggest thing I don't like about Windows 11, they've changed it to where it looks like Apple. And I think that's a atrocity. There is a fairly easy way. If you have Windows 11 and you want it to look like Windows 10, that's easily possible. Just Google it. There's a few settings, and you can align everything back over to the left on the bottom like it's supposed to be, and you can correct a lot of the things. I don't know why they make a great Windows version like 10, and then they turn around and just come out with garbage. 7 was great, 8 was just garbage. Nobody even, I know people that still have 7 in their computers, but I don't know anybody that even used 8 when it was new. It was so bad, it was terrible. 10 loses support soon, yes, but let me qualify something. If you're a hacker and you go on the dark webs and the interwebs and you do things, and you go to blind links and you download things that you don't trust and all that kind of stuff, you better keep your Windows as up to date as you can, and you might want to update to Windows 11. I'll even admit that. However, if you're like me, I save surf. If I'm going to go do something I don't know if it's safe, I use a virtual machine, so I'm operating in a machine within the machine. I do things, I have things that prevent me from getting viruses and things like that are not antiviruses, just procedures that I use when I'm downloading things and stuff, and it works. The bottom line is Windows 10 is a much better system. Just stay with Windows 10. If you have a Windows 10 machine that was built with Windows 10, then if you upgrade to Windows 11, you will not be happy with the performance of that machine. I'm telling you. No machine that's ever been upgraded. Simplex Radio's over here pointing at his machine right now. Yep, because it happens. If you upgrade a 7 to a 10 or a 10 to an 11, you're going to find system performance will go down, because 11's made to run on an 11 machine. And if you have a 10 machine, it may run 11, but it's not going to run it well. And so what I say is, if you got a 10, the whole ending support, if you're not one of these people that's doing all this high risk stuff, you can be out of support for a year or two. It's not that big a deal. Let me tell you something. I install a version of Windows 10 in this machine that's 2 years old, and then I apply 0 updates. The first thing I do is go in and I do 5 different things to make it to where it will never Windows update, no matter what. I do everything. I firewall the Microsoft websites. I go into the HKey local machine and I change the text in there. I go into the actual commands in there, and there's 5 different things. I've got it all. I've got it saved. I go in there and do it. I don't get updates, which means technically my systems, all of my systems in this room, are out of Windows service for 3 years now. I have not updated any of them. As a matter of fact, when this one got corrupt, I went back and installed the version from 3 years ago and then immediately squashed it so it couldn't update nothing. Because I want the current version. I want the one that I want from 3 years ago. I don't want all that new bullshit. I don't want the updates. I don't want the Windows 11 trial horse shit going in there. And so 311 for work groups. That was the best ever. We had 311 for work groups, and it was the first time where we actually had a file go from one computer to the other. It was pretty damn cool. I gotta tell you guys, that was some state-of-the-art shit back then. Hey, look, we don't have to use a 3-inch floppy disk to take the fire report off of this computer and put it on this computer over here. Now you can do it by going into a file screen, and we'll map a network drive. Anyway, it was pretty cool. It's very rudimentary, but it worked good. XP, probably of all the systems there's ever been, I was more happy with XP than anyone that's ever come out. I can honestly say that. XP was a solid ass system, man. Solid ass system. Linux has gotten better. They've got a nice graphical interface now that's similar to Windows. It's kind of halfway between Apple and Windows, which is cool. But there's still a lot of command prompt stuff. And see, it's easy to say, look, I'm going to use Linux because I can still open up my window, my Chrome browser in there and do whatever. That's great. But remember, what I'm doing with my computers is much more advanced. And so in this computer right here, I have 7 sound cards. Okay? One goes to a radio, one goes to another radio, one is here, which goes to the studio production mics. I got another one here that takes sound out of different equipment and puts it into the computer so people can hear radios. I've got 7 sound devices hooked up to this computer and 7 monitors. So what ends up happening is when I try to do that on Linux, it becomes a freaking nightmare. Linux doesn't play as well with drivers and things like that, and that kind of became the problem with Linux. All right, I'm going to get rid of that completely because I spun it all around and screwed it all up, and I think I got a spare one over here. Yeah, that's that one. Is that rain? I don't know if we got, almost sounds like we have rain here at the studio. There we go. Here, we'll use this one right here. And I'll put up this here. All right, if there's anything that you guys want me to cover, let me know. I will do a news roundup before we go out tonight so that you guys can see what's going on in the world out there. But if there's anything specific that you guys would like me to cover, please put it in there. I'm willing to talk about just about anything. I don't know if you guys can see it there, but there's the frogs. Yes, I haven't gotten into all that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Old dog, new trick. Sorry. I'm trying. You guys got to remember, I do all this too, so it's not like I'm technologically an idiot or something, but I got Android I'm still trying to figure out. I got Windows, which I stay very good on. But man, there's a lot to this. This is a real big deal. And so, it's kind of one of those things. Here's the frog cam there in the upper center. We've got the toads are starting to show up out there. And I don't have anything else live to put there right now. I'm going to go looking here in just a minute to see if I can find something else. In the meantime, we currently have a tornado warning in Canada. Look at this, way up here in the middle of nowhere, we've got a tornado warning. It's north and west of Regina. Or Regina, but believe it or not, I've heard it pronounced both ways. All right, anyway, Watrous. It's up south of Colonsay near Watrous, and that is it's a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. It's 90-kilometer wind gust, quarter-size hail. It's a dangerous and life-threatening situation. And then the other one, I think there's another one. Okay, yeah, that's that one. Let me see. Is there another one? Okay, there was one over here, but apparently, yeah, it's been allowed to expire. There was a tornado warning with this cluster. Now, remember last night we had storms leaving the country, heading into Canada. Remember that? Tonight, we're going to see these same storms come back again, and this time they're going to be coming from Canada down into the United States, into New England up here. So there you go. We'll be watching for that as the evening goes on. Currently, there is no tornado warnings in the United States. There is some strong storms out here in Oklahoma, and there's a number of severe thunderstorms issued for these storms out here in Oklahoma. Now, where's our threat area tonight? Well, it's not a very big. It's a big one, but it's not very strong. See the green outline? That big old long green outline? No, it's not a phallic symbol. That green outline is the inside that area. There's a slight chance of tornadoes and severe weather tonight. It's not a very big chance. but it's there. So this is where we're going to be watching, and you can see here near Des Moines, we've got several severe thunderstorm warnings out here near Des Moines that we're watching as this stuff moves along this line. Now they're going to probably redraw this because look, it's the line of thunderstorms is just about to exit the warned area there, or the watched area, I should say, and so I can only assume that they'll be reissuing that further over towards Davenport and Ottumwa. So we'll have to see. Ottumwa, that's where radar was from. And then Kansas City, you're next up down here. You're going to have it coming in on you, but it doesn't look like anything too severe. There's a picture of out in the middle of nowhere. A couple of school buses. All right. I don't see any storm chasers out. What's this guy doing? Is this a storm chaser? Nope. This is a stationary cam. I don't see. There's one. He's kind of on standby, kind of waiting, because I don't think there's anything up in this. He's waiting for this line to come through. Tell you what, let's go ahead and put him up, since we don't have a lot to watch anyway. And let's see if there's any other cameras out in front of this thing. This camera is out in front of it, so I'll go ahead and stick it here anyway. We'll keep an eye on them school buses for them. And let's see, is there anything else down here? We've got another one here that's a stationary cam. Guys, this was my thing when I discussed with my team here about doing a nightly cast like this. I said, but you know, some nights there's not going to be anything to show. You know, that was my one thing. I'm like, well, we have really dramatic nights like the other night when we, and by the way, for those of you who were with us last night, because I love transparency and I love to be straight up about stuff. Remember I showed you guys a little bit of Space 1999 and they took my stream down for a second? Well, I had to go back today and cut that piece out and then reformat it and put it back up as a video. That's how I had to do it. So it is up. The only protesting I could find, there was a mention of protesting in Portland, but I couldn't find a stream for it. And the other one was in Kansas City, Missouri, which I had up in the center top, and that live stream ended. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to search again for anything relevant to like that. See if we can find anything here real quick. It is a slow night. That's why I've just decided to put up whatever I come up with. Here we go. Okay, they have relisted that site. So let me put it back up here for you. All right, I'll put it in the lower right. Since the space station cam has gone down, we'll go ahead and put this in the lower right. This is that protest that's going on in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri. Looks like about 9 people there. Money for people's needs, not war with Iran. They act like we started this thing or something. I think that's the part that I'm confused about. I try to look at these things from the center and not get political, but I can never understand the support for a country that supports terrorism when they're terrorizing our friends around the world. So I don't know. It's very difficult for me to kind of, you know, I try not to have a political opinion, but I do have a humanitarian opinion sometimes. And I understand why they had to do that with the nukes. I mean, I get that. If you don't get that, I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. We got down here. That one's not picking up nothing. All right, so that's pretty much what we got. We're just going to have to keep watching this. We do have our one storm chaser there on the top. The top view is a storm chaser right here. And he's waiting for this line to come over him. He's just south of New Glarus and Monticello, and just north of Monroe. And he is waiting for this storm to come through. This storm has produced a few power outages back here in its wake. Again, the only tornado warnings that we currently have when they list them at the bottom like this, it's because they're foreign. These are tornado warnings up in Canada. Let's take a look and see where these are, though. Did they reissue? Yes, they reissued tornado warnings back up here. Is that Skinay? South of Skinay. Let's see. It's just north of Quebec. That's easy enough. We do have a tornado situation, a tornado warning here. I'm not sure if we have anything actually being produced. I can't use split mode while we got screens up. So let me just change over to high-res velocity. And there we go, guys. There is a lot of opposing winds in this storm. I don't see an actual straight-up couplet. But, I mean, any of this right here, I mean, that you got some really strong winds coming together. And God bless, right here and here and, of course, here. So, I mean, there is definitely a chance it's some couplets here. Definitely something. So let's put this in motion and see what it looks like as it forms. Yeah, those are cells in there. You can see them coming down. All right, do we have anything out here? It looks like it's pretty rural. It's pretty rural until we get to Quebec, but this is going to come into Quebec. I don't think I have no cameras on network in Quebec. Let me see what else I can find. Port de Quebec. It's facing the wrong way, I think. All right, let me look around here and see what we got real quick. That's my family out there servicing the turtle, or the frogs. And our cats, we've got a bunch of cats. The cats and the frogs get along great. That's not what I'm looking for. All right, let's do this one. Copy. Okay, so let's switch that one out. This is a live shot of the port there, Port de Quebec. And so this area here is going to become hit with this storm here before too much longer. It's going to be a few more minutes, though, maybe 30 minutes or so. But that is going to come in there to the Port of Quebec. That should be a live shot there right now. Okay, let's switch that. I got another one that actually has this one in it. So let's switch that out so we can broaden out what we can see here. And then let me see what I got to do to make this better here. Tell you guys, I've gotten pretty good with this software. There we go. All right, there we go. That's a that's like a composite shot that gets you a little more views around. That's the Port of Quebec in the upper left. Also a shot of his radar there, and also Quebec Yacht Club, and also I guess that's just some private residences there. That's kind of a roof across the roof type shot of some residents. But all that is over in Quebec, and that area is about to get hit by some pretty bad weather, and it'll also be getting dark there pretty soon. You can see the sun is fairly low in the sky, And once it gets dark there, then we'll probably start seeing this lightning. This storm's putting down quite a bit of lightning, so we're going to be watching that on the radar tracker here, because this is there's Quebec right there, and here this stuff comes. Definitely heading right for Quebec. It's pretty bad weather for them. This whole thing is pushing right down this way. And it's going to come right over Quebec and then right into the United States down here. If this is not a tornado, it's looking more and more like a derecho or a gust, like a big bow echo. This could just be a big bow echo forming here. And those, yes, they don't produce tornadoes generally, but those produce 90 mile an hour straight line winds. Those are the ones that were tipping over all the trains in North Dakota back last Friday. We had 2 or 3 trains derailed, and the reason those trains derailed was because if a train hits a tornado, generally the train's heavy enough and there's enough weight with the cargo and everything, and the train's all connected together. The tornado goes over it, it may derail a car or two, but generally not even that. However, straight line winds that hit a long train on the broad side will flip that train right off the tracks. So straight line winds, derecho winds, are actually more hazardous to trains than anything else, than tornadoes. What, did we lose that shot? Oh, there's New England. I got a few shots further out ahead of this thing. If we end up getting there, I don't know. Mississippi River Lock. I don't know what this video went out on me down here. I'll see if I can get that back. All right, let's go back over here. I'm gonna check for any protest cams going out right now. Here we go. Here's something new. There we go. That's a this is a protest in I think it's in Austin. Yes, Austin, Texas. This is Austin, Texas, and it is a protest. It says, after Iran strikes U.S. base in Qatar at the Republic Square. So it's a messed up title of this video, but this is CBS Austin is where we're getting this from. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. All right, guys, I'm working on another one here. This one is another protest we're watching here. Let me see. Let me get the info on it. I'm gonna put it in the bottom. I'm gonna split that bottom screen on the right. This one is also in Austin. So these are both out of Austin. This one purports to be in LA, but it doesn't look like there's a lot going on. So, I'll go ahead and put this in the upper right. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything going on that one. It looks like they're showing cookies at this point. That's old video. Times Now, News Guardian, Daily Guardian. These are all bullshit, you know. They're all foreign websites. The Daily Guardian, here we go. This is showing footage of an ICE protest 12 days ago. Still showing it in a loop. And it says live, happening right now. I can't stand that. All right. Yep, I don't see anything else. That's what I have for protests, guys. And the one in LA there, he's reading the menu board at the Taquitos and More. I can't get much for live feeds out of Iraq, and I'm gonna tell you why. They don't have much, or Iran. They don't have internet there. Tehran is almost completely without internet, and one of the funniest things I heard in a long time is somebody said they're without internet in Tehran, and this literally could cause the next big humanitarian crisis. And I'm like, what? What? The lack of internet is going to cause a humanitarian crisis? Okay, I'm not going to say anything else. You can put all that together. Jeez, really, seriously, really. Seriously. The humanitarian crisis was because of their dumb leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, but they act like they can't exist without the internet. They forget about how us 80s children and 70s children and, I don't know, everybody else in the world survives.
Yep. All right. So, let's see here. Again, we're still watching for this. You can see on there. I left that pink line on there, and you can see that bow echo is continuing to move towards Quebec at a fairly good clip. Does have quite a bit of lightning with it. Let's see, do we have anything else going on? Down here we've got some severe thunderstorm warnings down here near Clayton and Boise City, Elkhart. Yeah, there is some disturbed weather here, but nothing really coupled up yet. And we have no storm chasers down here. We do have a storm chaser here in Madison. He's actually near Monroe, just south of New Glarus. And he is watching this line. I'm going to switch this back over to reflectivity. And you guys can see it's a pretty serious line coming in. And that's the upper left one over here, this one right here. And we're watching out for him to come in there. Okay, let me look and check and see if there's anything in the chat room I need. Yes, I'm actually a moon child. A Cancer, depending on what thing you look at.
Jeez Louise, look at that. Noah.
wait for you to walk away.
Yeah, just let's go ahead. I want to show you guys this. This is crazy. Let's go back to the frog cam in zoom mode and look at all the frogs. Look at that one on the right by the green bowl just sitting there.
I literally just walked away.
That's Alabaster the cat. He's like, I'm not even walking over there. You've heard of a sausage fest? Well, this is a frog fest.
Oh gosh, sitting there stretching in the blue pool, getting ready to probably go poop. Damn frog pile, bro.
Yeah, it's a frog pile, all right. Look at that. You guys can watch this every night. We put stuff out there. We set up little scenes. We have it all decorated for the different seasons, and it's literally a resort for frogs, for toads. And they get in this water and they bathe and they shit. That's what they do in the water. They bathe and they shit. And sometimes you catch that right on the cam. Sometimes they have sex too. The males don't have any spots on their back. They're like their backs are like brown.
No, and they're just putting it in there. But,
Oh, okay. Are you doing it? Yeah, the males are like solid color, greenish brown, solid colors. Yeah, yeah. If you guys haven't subbed, I'd really appreciate it. We've had quite the fall off here since the big 2 weeks ago. Couple big nights we had. But yeah, that's the frog cam. You guys can check the frog cam out 24/7 365 pretty much. And anyway, it's pretty fun. So here we go. We're back on the grid. Let's see what we got going on here. Nothing really, guys. I know it's a boring night. I'm sorry. I don't know what I mean by I'm sorry. Do I mean that I wish that like pandemonium was happening out there so we have something to report? Oh man. Now there's an idea. Ding ding ding. Did you see that?
no.
We need to set up a thing where people could pay $1 and it would turn on a frog feeding dispenser.
Oh yeah, the chicken people I used to watch used to do
Really?
that. Yeah.
I could, Joseph and I could easily build that.
Yeah, that's great and all, but
Look how fat they already are.
we gotta get at least 1 to 10 pounds, man. Look,
Oh.
there's our 1 pounder right there.
Yeah, there's the big one. We'll go back for just a second. Look, the big one just jumped in the water.
It's one of many.
Look at her. She's like 96 ounces. Look at that thing. It's just, it's toad pandemonium. It's toademonium. It's toademonium.
Shallow when he get in there and look like hungry hippo.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm responding to chat. There is not a lot going on tonight. Actually, there's nothing going on tonight. There's no internet in Iran. And there's really nothing going on right now. It's pretty quiet. Well, I'm continuing to look for things to put up in the grid. The upper right is that they're supposed to be heading into a protest, I'm pretty sure. The lower two split screens are two different views of the same protest that's going on. Shit.
Oh my God, we got 3 high. Oh yeah. We've got 3 on. Oh my gosh. Just
Not a lot going on tonight. Here's something in Chicago, but it's the Daily Guardian. I don't think that's ever live. Nope, nope. This is that Chicago footage of the arrests. They're showing that as live now. Chicago protests live. Protesters, ICE officials clash outside Chicago courthouse. Tensions explode. 8 watching. The Daily Guardian. Chicago protest live. Protesters live. Live video. Clash outside. Guys, it's a fraud. This video is 10 days old. And it's bullshit that they still have this video on here being purported as being live. I really don't like that. I really, really don't. All right, let's go up and check out this Canadian tornado up here. Still out in the middle of nowhere. Do we have high-res velocity up here? Yes. And there is a bit of a couplet there. I can see why they're issuing on that. Also back down here, these ones down here have been allowed to expire again coming into Quebec. But now Quebec is under the severe thunderstorm warning now. Those have been extended. And the storm is coming in pretty quick. Like I said, it's going to be there really quick. And now all of Quebec is under a severe thunderstorm warning. And the upper left view right here, this one. Oh no, wait a minute. The right, center right, that quad screen there in the center right, that's the Middle East. The quad screen in the center top, that one is Quebec. And so what we're watching there in that one is 3 different views of Quebec, because this really heavy line of thunderstorms is about to go through there. And so we're waiting for that to happen. It's pretty close. We could take a look at this back on the velocity. You can see there's a lot of strong winds right along there. That are going to come over. We just had an update again, and there it is. It's getting pretty close. It's going to be in the outskirts of Quebec here in the next 5 or 7 minutes, 10 minutes. And so I'm going to keep watching that as it comes through. Let's see what else we got going on. That's a car ad. Canned footage, old footage. Oh, I know, it's crazy. We're talking about there's literally a melee of frogs trying to get in this bowl right now. Toads.
It's a bad case of hungry hippo.
It's kind of like hungry hippo. Look at that. That cat I think is alabaster. But yeah, look at these frogs and shit. Seriously. Look at that fat frog there in the front. They put some cat food in that bowl and they're all fighting over the cat food. Look at that fat ass trying to get in there. Look at him. Look at her. They're all females.
Not one male out there.
Yeah, I don't see any males.
They're not needed yet.
Oh, look at that ass. Oh my God, dude, this is what this has devolved to tonight. We're watching frogs. But, oh, it's funny watching them jump in and out of the bowls. Isn't that nuts? No, it's frogs. Let's go back to the grid. Oh, what happened to this one? There it goes. I'll never understand why sometimes you have to like talk it into going. It looks like they're that the protest that they were doing, the stage and the microphones, has turned into a walking protest down there now. All right. Let's see. Was there anything else we need to talk about in here? People don't want to. Yeah, it is BS that YouTube lets that go on. Yes, a lot of people are lazy to take the easy way out. I tend to agree. You would think it would, but it would be easier to enforce some kind of policy for YouTube. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm leery about asking for any new regulation, because every regulation they have now is just a pain in the ass that we have to deal with. It takes so much of what we have to do on YouTube to stay a relevant legal operating channel, takes away so much time from our creativity. It's kind of a waste. So I'm and a lot of it's ineffective anyway, and so I'm leery to want more regulation when the regulation they have seems to always miss the mark. That bad weather's getting there. What happened?
I'm just reading the chat with ding 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 and Aquarius. Remembering her dad.
Yes, my brother and I used to go around every year when the ditches were drying up and save the tadpoles. We must have saved 1 million of those little devils. And we would have buckets everywhere full of tadpoles, and then it would start raining again, and the ditches would fill up, and we'd go dump them all back in the ditch again. That's why we decided to go. With like a resort type of feel. Because the frogs, when they show up, they're like on vacation. They don't give a shit. They're just on vacation. Oh, there's the Daily Guardian showing that shot of all the tear gas going off in front of the federal building from 10 days ago. But it's live right now in California. I don't know what they could do about it, but we're getting to the point where they should be able to do something about it.
Cool. Thanks for all the hearts.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right, guys, is there anything you'd like me to discuss? I'm not staying on too long tonight. There's not a lot going on. I will go ahead and do a quick news roundup. We can take a look at what's going on out there. I was gonna say I thought that was thunder, but it's not. You know, something I'm learning about AI is when you're signed into like ChatGPT, you need to start talking to it like a 5-year-old and train it to do exactly what you want. You know, you can take, like, let's say you wrote a paper, a white paper or a term paper, or something that's in your own writing, like your writing style. You can actually put that in the Chat GPT and say, what I want you to do is I want you to use this as a model for my writing style. And then you can tell it things like, I only want these news stations. I don't want these news stations. I only want references like this. I don't want references like that. When I ask you for a meta package for a YouTube video, I want it to be exactly 3,000 characters, and I want it to be a title that's keyword rich, and I've done all this, and it now knows exactly how I want everything. And so when I ask it to write me something, whether it be something scientific or a blog post or something for an outline for a YouTube video, regardless, whatever the reason I'm doing it, whatever the reason I'm when I put something in there to use it and I use it, it's getting to the point where it knows what I want. It understands how I like things, and it's starting to present things in a way that saves me more and more and more time every day, and that's so important. It's all about AI right now is mostly about saving you human hours. It's by using machine time instead of using your time. What you're doing basically is you're taking your 10-minute task and you're making it into a 10-second task by using a machine to complete the work. All right, so the latest thing that happened just a couple of hours ago is President Trump has announced a complete and total ceasefire between Israel and Iran. This apparently was agreed to by the three powers. Iran's attack on the U.S. Airbase in Qatar earlier today caused no injuries. It was a weak response, according to President Trump. Negotiations involved Vice President Vance, Secretary Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and direct talks between Trump and Netanyahu, according to CNN. Ex-post reflects skepticism about the ceasefire durability, with global fears globally of the renewed conflict. So we just have to kind of watch on that. I mean, anytime you have a ceasefire, especially in the Middle East, they're always temporary. Let's see here. We talked about that already. Okay, Ukraine's facing a Russian offensive right now in the Sumy region, and let's see here. More ethnic violence in Nigeria. Japan has canceled their NATO trip to the U.S. That's interesting. Serbia, yeah. The UK, they're really working towards this assisted dying bill, and this is something I follow because I believe absolutely
We need it here.
that you have the right to die. You have the right to die at a time of your choosing.
Yep.
Now, do I think that at 21 you can walk in somewhere and say, "Kill me"?
Why
No,
not?
no. There has to be a process. We have to make sure that there's not a mental illness that we can help you with or something like that. But I do believe there has to eventually be a way that if you need, if you're terminal, especially the moment you're terminal, you should just be able to say, "Let's do it tonight, 9:00." I mean, it's just boom. You should not have to live like that. And so I'm all for this kind of stuff. People are worried about ethical concerns. If the person that's dying wants to die, I don't see the efficacy problems.
Can I say something while you're
Yeah,
live?
go ahead.
Here's my thoughts on this. Stop playing that person's God. It's between them and their God on how they choose to leave this plane. And if they're terminal or they're mentally that bad off or dementia and they have the clear moment and they choose to, don't keep making them go through it. Let them choose it and help them and do it. You let them deal with their God and their soul. Stop trying to be the martyr for theirs when you got your own issues and your own problems and your own skeletons to worry about.
There you go. And that's from my wife, Carlotta Alata. And I got to tell you, we do get to the point where there was a state that allowed someone who was like 19 years old or whatever. I'm trying to remember the story.
Yeah, she had mental
She had
illness.
mental illness. She had chronic depression. and she lived a rough life.
And it took her forever to get the approval.
And it took her forever, but she did finally get the approval. It does need to take a while to get the approval. We need to make damn sure that we're doing the right thing, because we're talking about a life here. If they have to wait a year, that's fine, but there does need to be a path. And the moment you're terminal, the path is short. It should be right away. Robot tablet, there's a lot of truth to what you say. Countries that have socialized medicine are much, much, much quicker to adopt euthanasia. And that's because of the money and the way the money's being used. Here, it's different, but... Well, are they abusing that? Now, here's the thing. If they send a counselor to your house that talks you into killing yourself, I start to have issues with that too. There needs to be an ethical way to provide both sides to people, and there needs to be a waiting period. There needs to be, even for terminal people, there should be a cool down. There should be a waiting period. We need to have 3 meetings over the course of 3 days.
Severe pain either and begging for it.
Now, if they're at the very end of life, of course, it should be just right away. Down here, we have hospice. They allow hospice to drug you out of your mind so bad that you don't even know you're dying, which
I
is...
had to do it to my husband.
Which is good. I mean, I went through that with my dad and my grandma, and
And I had to go.
it's sad. It's a sad thing, but at least you're able to get your loved ones out of that terrible pain of cancer finally eating you up inside or whatever. So I'm all for the assisted dying bills. I think we need to do it. I think that anybody that says that our society is not at a point where we can handle allowing people with dignity to end their life at a time of their choosing when there is terminal circumstances is nuts. And I'm sorry, but we need to fix that everywhere. All right, let's see here. We talked about that. There apparently was more ICE raids today. It intensified in the LA area. And they are getting support of the National Guard out there, according to Breitbart. Protests turned violent with 10 arrests outside ICE facilities. That's per Fox News. The Dodgers' $1 million pledge for immigrant families faced criticism. And the ex-post trended with Sanctuary City versus Enforce the Law. And that's where it comes down to. Do you believe that we should, enforce the law to the T? Or do you believe that we should make a lot of humanitarian exceptions to our law that's in place? Federal support now on the way to North Dakota. Remember last Friday, that big wedge tornado? It went on to kill people. It was bad. We played that last night. I could actually shoot a little bit of that up tonight if you wanted to. That tornado, I don't think everybody realizes, but yeah, that tornado that we watched form back on Friday night actually ended up, that same tornado, we're pretty sure, actually ended up killing some people and ended up being a really bad storm. And so I'll go ahead and give me just a second here to set something up. I'll show you guys a little snippet of that. I think some of you have already seen it. Some of you may have watched it live, but that's okay. It's good. It's a good one. And let me just switch this to cable input so I can... there we go. Okay, and now... And it's dropping... Oh, all right, there we go. You'll be able to hear it now. So now what happened was the last Friday night, we were watching and we had 8 storm chasers on the same storm. And it's so rare to have 8 storm chasers like literally on the same storm. And in this particular case, all 8 storm chasers were able to see the storm. and they were able to see the actual tornado. So what I'm going to do is I'll play just a minute of this for you. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to show you the moment that it drops out and give you about 3 minutes of this, so you can kind of feel what it was like out there. It was truly amazing. Let me just set this screen up real quick. Just give me a second here. I want to make sure that you guys can see this okay.
Sir Victor is
Hey Victor, what's up, buddy?
What? Cool. I mean, no, not cool, but cool.
What?
Train derailment in North Dakota from a tornado.
Yes, it was actually from straight line winds. It was a derecho, as they call it, and it was caused when a long train is hit broadside by straight line winds. It ends up derailing the train. That's what happens. Kind of messed up, but that's what happens. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna play this for you guys, and you'll be able to hear it as well. The guy left center. He just passed a storm chaser, and they're both going 100 miles an hour in either direction. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. He's trying to get us down there in front of it. Upper left, he's running along with it right now on an intercept course, it looks like, because the road he's on is going to take him right in front of it. We're going to get some great shots of this. Upper right, you can see the road he's on is about to get crossed. All right, we got our last guy back, so we're back to 8 cams up now. Welcome in, everybody. This is what we do here. Yes, Carl, there is protests going on. They're all peaceful at this time in Los Angeles. I'll go back to the grid as soon as we don't have a tornado nearly on the ground at this point. It's just about to come down to the ground. Remember, there's going to be a different lag of a few seconds on each of these cams. And there you go. Look at that. What a shot. Now watch, right at the moment this thing touches the ground, all 8 storm chasers acquire it. That's a huge couplet.
Right center, you can see it's
right
it's way in the distance on that camera.
I think we're on the ground. It's hard to tell, but I think that's debris and dust that you're seeing. We are on the ground, it looks like. Yeah, we got a tornado on the ground. It's a wedge. Urbana, North Dakota. Urbana, North Dakota. Take shelter now that you are next up for this thing, and it's on the ground. Holy shit. We've got a large wedge tornado, and it's on the ground. That is textbook, ladies and gentlemen. We have a textbook tornado right now. Look at the shots we're getting of this thing. These guys are amazing.
There it is, all 8 cameras.
Every storm chaser has a shot of this tornado right now. All 8 of them. From 8 different angles. You're watching this thing live. This is Starship Adventures, guys. Thank you for being here. This is what we do here. God, I wish I was there. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Do you know how rare it is to
I
have
hope
8
nobody's in
storm
front of this
chasers all feeding back live shots of the same twister? This is nuts. This rarely happens.
This thing came down as a wedge. There was
Again,
no
the guy
bullshit.
in the
They
right
normally
center
rope
is
in and
really
rope
far
out.
away,
This
but
thing
you can
came in
see
as a
it. It's
wedge.
there.
In this case here, we actually had storm chasers right there at the storm. We were actually able to see the genesis of the tornado, right where it started, how it started, and not only see it happen, but see it happen from 8 different angles, from 8 different locations around the storm. It was an amazing broadcast. It was an amazing night, and I just wanted to package this up and bring it to you today in such a way that you would be able to enjoy it like we did the other night when we aired. There you go, guys. That was again. That was the other night, Friday night, last Friday night, and that storm went on and killed people. FEMA has now allocated $10 million for North Dakota tornado recovery, and this according to Epoch Times. And then the death toll remained at 5. Cleanup is ongoing. Community fundraisers have already raised $750,000. And Governor Burgum praised federal aid and the assistance they've been getting from local and state authorities and fire departments. Apparently the help is coming in pretty rapidly, and that's always good to know. All right, so there we go. Looks like somebody's shopping for groceries there in the upper right. It's really a slow night, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Let's see here. Let me check the chat room and see what's going on up here. Yep, yeah, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the redress of your government, freedom of religion, all covered by the First Amendment.
Can't trespass the eyes.
Yep, and you can't trespass the eyes. Anywhere you're allowed to stand, you're allowed to film, period. There is no exceptions.
What? You got another dog pile out there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I actually believe that protesting is what the founders actually had in mind. I believe that now civil unrest and rioting, I'm not talking about all that bullshit. I'm talking about peaceful protesting, the demonstration of our dislike for what our government is doing. It's the right to petition and redress our government with anything that we feel we don't like that they're doing, and that is our right. And by standing out in the street and saying we don't like this and we're not taking it anymore, that is absolutely protected free speech, and it's being done in a traditional public forum. Now the moment you start blocking roads, we can discuss that. That's different. Shouldn't be blocking roads. Should be no violence, nothing being thrown, no paint. Okay? I'm talking about peaceful protesting on sidewalks, on traditional public forums. That is definitely covered under the First Amendment. Yeah, I don't like the way protests are being carried out by some of the people involved in the protests, and I don't like the way the protests are being handled by the police a lot of times either. I find that it's almost like we just do the same old things over and over and over again, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that you have 90% peaceful protesters, and you got 10% of your anarchists that show up later in the day and care nothing about what you're protesting about. All they care about is causing mayhem and anarchy, and that's it. And so we always have that. We always have that dual element involved there. All right. So anyway, let's get back onto this Voice of America layoffs, prompt congressional hearings. They're trying to protect that. Whether you stand for or against Voice of America, it's one of those things. It's been going on for way too long. At the very least, it needs an overhaul. Let's see. I'm not going to worry about that. Nope. Nope. Recruitment of FAA air traffic controllers continues to be a high priority for the federal government. Ongoing shortages have caused flight delays. Federal funding supports the training program, but they just can't get enough applicants. You know how long it takes to get an aircraft controller to the point where they can sit their own desk and run their own runway or run their own airspace or run their own grounds, whatever their job is. Most places, I think it's 2 years before you're ever cut loose on your own, before you ever sit at a desk by yourself. It's like 2 years. It's more training than you get as a police officer, a barber, a firefighter. It's more training than you get in a lot of professions out there that take a lot of training. So it's just something you kind of got to think about. We need air traffic controllers, but it takes a very special human being to be an air traffic controller. You have to be meticulous 100% of the time. You have to be right 100% of the time, and the stress is amazing. However, once you get through those 2 years and you start sitting at your own desk, it pays well. Yeah. Let's see here. I don't think I understand. We're 100% wrong about what. Okay, according to this here, the First Amendment of the Constitution, the 5 things: religion, speech, press, assembly, petition. Those are the 5 things covered by the First Amendment. Freedom of religion includes the freedom to practice any religion or no religion. It's your choice. It prevents the government from establishing a state religion or interfering with your religious practices. Freedom of speech. This protects the right to express oneself without government censorship or control, with some limitations. Again, you can't trespass. You've got time, place, and manner restrictions. You can't walk into City Hall at 9 o'clock at night and expect to stand inside. It's closed. That's time, place, and manner. Freedom of press ensures that the media, and by the way, everyone is media. You don't have to be credentialed. You can stop at a car wreck. Stay out of the way, take your film, and drive away. You're a member of the media. Everybody's a member of the media. It ensures that anyone can report to the government, report information without the government interfering. It allows for a free flow of information from private citizens to private citizens without the government's involvement. Okay, and that's very important. Freedom of assembly guarantees, and this is important because what we're talking about here is the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly. They're both in the same one. They're both in the First Amendment. The freedom of assembly guarantees the right of individuals to gather peacefully. The word peacefully is in there. It's in the Constitution. Peacefully for any purpose, including to protest. That is included. It's right here. That's included in freedom of assembly. Okay, you have the freedom to assemble, and you have the freedom to protest. You have the freedom to speak about whatever you want, and the freedom to petition the government. This allows citizens to appeal to the government to address grievances and seek redress for those grievances. This is why you can stand on the side of the road and cuss a cop out, and he can't arrest you. And if he does, he gets in trouble, and you win the lawsuit and all that. Because the truth is, you're allowed to say whatever you want to that cop. Now, the moment you make a threat, you go to jail. You're not allowed to make threats. Nothing I say here has anything to do with breaking the law. The moment it's not a peaceful protest, this doesn't count anymore. It becomes something else. It becomes a riotous demonstration, which is something totally different than a peaceful assembly. Okay? And so that's the difference. When we talk about the Constitution protects legal activities. Okay? And it makes activities legal. It prevents the government from affecting change on your ability to speak and your ability to redress and your ability to worship the God you want. The First Amendment, the prime directive, if you will, of the United States of America, is probably the most important thing that there ever was. It's why I'm allowed to sit here tonight and say whatever I want on this mic and on this camera, I can do and say pretty much what I want. And the only person that restricts me is people that flag my content and YouTube. Neither one are the government. The government is not allowed to censor me. YouTube is. I signed an agreement. I'm under an agreement with YouTube. If I violate it, I did last night. Got in a little bit of trouble. No big deal. I just had to go edit it. I didn't get in any actual trouble. But the point is I work for YouTube. I have to follow their rules, okay? But the government's different. The government's not allowed to make rules that censor you. The government's not allowed to tell Facebook to take down that COVID post, okay? That's all unconstitutional. And it's unconstitutional to tell you that you cannot gather on the steps of City Hall, a traditional public forum, and speak out about your distrust or distaste for your government. That's 100% protected. The moment you throw something, you get arrested and go to jail. It's just literally that simple. Yes, many of our founding fathers died for these freedoms. It's this document. It's literally the document, the Constitution, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, if you will. That's what makes this country different than all the others. And the other ones that are almost as good as us, like Canada, that have it going on pretty good up there, right? They've got the Canadian Charter of Rights, which is almost written right after our Constitution. You can go in there and see where they literally read our Constitution and said, this is a really good idea. And I'm telling you, any country that's on the way to excellence, okay, has a freedom of speech. And even in the UK now, they have a Charter of Rights there as well. And they're allowed to go out and speak against their police and everything. And it's been a lot harder over there. It's been a very difficult change to get their freedoms over there like we've had here pretty much from the get-go. But they're getting there. You can go stand out and protest now in England and get away with it. There was a time when that was squashed. Robot tablet, I disagree with that. Here's where the dividing line is, okay? And I'm going to explain. The moment a peaceful protest becomes unruly, law enforcement issues a dispersion order. They come out and they say, okay, this is now an unlawful assembly. People are throwing eggs at the police or whatever, and we are now going to deem this an unlawful assembly. And they go on their speakers and they say, hey, this is now an unlawful assembly. You will need to disband right away, go away, and then you'll have to protest some other time somewhere else. We allowed you to protest. Things started being thrown. We're now giving the order to leave the area. Now, they'll be given 10 minutes to leave the area. Then they'll be warned again. Then they'll be given additional time. Then they'll be warned again. Okay? So, it's not just that one person throws an egg and suddenly everybody goes to jail. It's not like that. But when the eggs get thrown, or when the fireworks get shot off, or when the brick gets thrown down on the CHP car, when that happens, an unlawful assembly is declared. And from that point on, they begin to escalate to clear the area. And that's how they look at it. I have a very unique perspective, as I was a cop many years ago. I was a firefighter full time, but I did the police thing part time. And I also now am a member of the media, and I've become a constitutionalist. And so I see this from a bunch of different angles. And the problem is everybody wants to say, look, there was a protest yesterday, and then last night they burned down a Target. I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking about the big riots, the Floyd riots, the King riots. When something like that happens, those original protesters, they're all back at home. They're all back in their hotel rooms. They're not there anymore. They left when the sun started coming down because they didn't want the trouble. Who comes at that point? The anarchists. The anarchists arrive and they ruin it for everybody. And then guess who gets blamed for it? The people that were doing the peaceful protests get blamed for it. Whether you believe in what they're protesting for or not, you have to see what's going on here. You've got anarchists that don't care about ICE raids. They don't care about people being deported. They don't care about Donald Trump or Joe Biden. They don't care about anything other than they love that movie The Purge and they really want to test it out. And I'm not bullshitting you. That's exactly what it is. And so what we have to do is realize that we're dealing with two completely different groups of people. We're dealing with peaceful protesters and we're dealing with anarchists. Now, I'm not saying there is some interface, because what ends up happening is these pissed off protesters end up getting riled up, keyed up, and pulled into the violence by the anarchists. If you get 5 or 10 humans saying, let's burn it down, let's burn it down, next thing you know, these angry protesters over here, a lot of them will end up joining that. Just like your dog never would attack anybody. But if he gets with the other 4 dogs in the neighborhood, he'll go out and kill cattle. He'll go out and kill anything. Because they run in packs, and it's the same thing here. And when you get 1 or 2 anarchists, just like on the January 6th riots, you had those 3 or 4 or 5 suspicious people that were still trying to figure out who they were. They're the ones that are like, let's go in, let's go in. The police open the door, everybody rushes in. Are they wrong? Yes, everybody's wrong that went in there. It's burglary, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is you had these anarchists there that were orchestrating it by using pack mentality against the crowd that was gathered. So whether we're talking Floyd protests or January 6th protests, same thing. Same issue. Those Floyd protests, 90% of those people, peaceful people, loving people, have families at home. They want better for their community. They were unhappy with the way that man was treated. And however you feel about it, they had the right to protest. And then the anarchists came out. And you had enough rage within the peaceful protesters and enough anarchists to show up and enough interface that all hell broke out. And a lot of people lost a lot of property, and I think there was even some deaths and everything attributed to it too, to some of these riots. And I think what upsets me about the whole thing is regardless of how you feel about the riot, you really shouldn't just blame it on the people that were out 12 hours ago peacefully protesting on the steps of City Hall, doing what the Constitution says they're allowed to do, unequivocally. They have to be able to do that, okay? They have to be able to go and protest and let people know that they're not happy. That's what the Constitution's all about. Yeah, I don't know how much I want to get into this whole discussion. Let's see. Well, to a degree, harassment and threats. Harassment, yes. Threats, no. You can stand in front of a cop and call him anything you want. Do I think it's productive for 50 people to stand in front of 50 cops and call them a bunch of names and flip them off? Does that do anything? I don't think so. I think it's ineffective as hell. But it's legal. But the moment that there's threats made, the moment someone raises a stick like they're going to hit somebody, that changes. That person is now taken into custody because he has committed a crime, assault or battery or both. And so I guess as a former police officer and someone who's in the media now, and I look at this thing and I have to look at it from a logical center point here. And the center point here is we have to divide protests into the first part of it, which is a peaceful protest, and then the second part of it, which occurs right after people are told to disperse. From that point on, that's no longer protest. The moment you're told to disperse, that now becomes civil unrest. And now all it takes is a fire or an injury or something like that, and you've reached the point of riot. So, let's see here. So harassment and threats, it depends. Harassment, yes. Threats, no. Okay, I know, I understand you don't like the protesting. I understand that.
Not all of us do.
I don't like the protesting either, but I will use protest as a tool if I have to get my government back in line. And that's all these people are doing. They feel that their government's out of line. And so they are displaying that they're unhappy. Okay? Remember, if we separate the anarchy part in the evening from the protest, and of course there was even some unrest in the afternoon too, but if you separate that, when all the tear gas starts going off and all the unrest, the people disperse, and all that's left is your anarchists and a few of your angry people, and they're the ones out there that are creating the riotous situation. Most of the people leave the area because they were peaceful to begin with. So whether you agree with it or not, I keep saying that because I'm trying to speak from the middle here. I haven't once even said how I feel about any of these riots. You've got Jan 6, you've got Floyd, you've got King, you've got about 10 others, you've got the No Trump, the No Kings, you've got the ICE from 2 weeks ago in LA. You got all these different ones that we can go back in time and look at. Some are Democrat, some are Republican, some are on one side, some are on the other side. But what's the one commonality they all have in common? There was a small number of agitators in the crowd that created a situation where a pack mentality took over. And that's why all those buildings got burned after George Floyd. That's why people ended up in the Capitol building on January 6th. Agitators. And these are anarchists. It's what they do. They love this stuff. And then the people that did the peaceful protest get blamed for it. Paid agent provocators, provocateurs, you're absolutely right, ding, ding, ding. People have no idea how many of these people are paid to go in and agitate. And they're paid by people on both sides. They may be paid by people that are on the side of the protesters because they want it to be violent. Or they may be paid by people who are against the protest because they want it to get violent. You see what I mean? It's played politically either way. Yeah, I don't think protesting's wrong. I do believe that riotous or civil unrest is wrong, period. And I think that we need to draw a clear distinction there. Yeah, I agree. But I also want you to know that the Constitution is such an amazing document. It's such an absolutely amazing document that after all these years, it's still relevant. It still works. It fits the internet. It fits everything we do. It still works today. Why? Because the Constitution's not rules for us, it's rules for them. The Constitution is a rule book for your government. You know, the Constitution doesn't have a single thing in it that you have to do. It all talks about the things your government is not allowed to do to you. That's what makes that document special. And that's what people don't understand when they think of the Constitution. It's like the Constitution doesn't apply to YouTube. That's why YouTube can censor your speech. The Constitution, the First Amendment, only applies to the government, to every government, whether it's your county government, your city government, your state government, your federal government. It applies to all of them equally. None of them can violate your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, your Fourth Amendment, your Fifth Amendment. These are all such important things. I didn't mention third because we don't need that one much anymore. But anyway, the point is I think it's important to understand that civil unrest is when we take the protesting just a little too far. And that's where we have the problem. It's not the protesting. I'll tell you, there was thousands of protests across this country over the last 2 weeks. Only a handful of them got violent. Portland, LA, New York, Chicago. Your typical hot spots. I think a little bit in Atlanta. Maybe a little bit in Baltimore. Had to bring that up.
Of course,
My wife's from Baltimore.
Baltimore City, baby.
Baltimore City. So anyway, other than those few incidents on several different nights, we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of peaceful protests across the United States. Whether you agree with them or not, that's the facts. Well, now, when you get into protesting, like people putting paint on paintings and gluing their hands to art pieces and all that, they're all morons. They can arrest all of them, hopefully before they smear the paint all over the painting. They're the reason that everything in the world has to be behind glass, because we're all a bunch of animals. I don't get that whole thing. I don't get people that get absolutely fanatical over something that cannot be scientifically proven. I mean, these people are literally out vandalizing things, damaging things, burning things, ruining things that are very important to our society. And they're doing it in the name of something that hasn't even been scientifically proven and can't be scientifically proven. And that's how much man has contributed to global warming, or whatever we're calling it this week. I just think it's important, again, with this whole thing is
I'll start doing the Shatner.
was that Shatner-esque?
Yes.
I was just given a Shatner warning. I don't know why, but they don't seem to understand. Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
Should I go get my gold shirt?
Oh, bless America.
There you go. Look, we got all kinds of rumors down here. They are releasing genetically modified mosquitoes down here. The government is.
Aye.
They've been doing it for about 4 years now. They started in the Keys. They're working their way up there. They're releasing mosquitoes that go out and they're very virile and they have lots of sex, but they can't produce. And so it ends up reducing the population.
It's only the females that suck the blood. They brought in the one that took out the dragonflies, that needs to take out the love bugs, that need to take out the gnats. They need to stop. They just need to stop.
What she's talking about is mosquito control inadvertently took out a lot of the predators that kill mosquitoes, like the dragonflies and things like that. It happens when we mess with
now
nature.
we got love bugs.
And now we've got love bugs, and there is a lot of people. That's a big conspiracy. You know, it's not quite as big as the whole "we didn't go to the moon" or one of those, but I mean it's a
local legend.
It's a local legend around here that the government created love bugs, and there is actually some proof out there that love bugs were changed over time to do different things with mosquitoes, and now we've got these bursts of love bugs that they'll get so bad on a road that you got to pull over because you can't see out of your windshield because
and
they stink. The guts stink like shit. Well, no, what would you call it? Like rot. They stink like rot.
Yeah.
we had friends that would come down for bike week over in Daytona. And one time, it was so bad at Daytona. When they got back home, they were power washing their bikes because they could not get the love bugs out. And it's bad. They're like little acid drops when they get on your paint. It's just, they're disgusting.
When I was a kid, my uncle and his friend got back to the house after going on a motorcycle trip, and they had come through love bugs, and his leather jacket was covered in love bugs, his helmet, his glasses, his face, it was all over his neck. He had guts all over. I was like, that's disgusting, dude. I will never do that. Oh my God.
And the rotten water at gas stations, don't ever
Yep.
use it during love bug season. It'll blow in your vents and it'll gag a maggot.
And that's another thing. If you're in Florida during love bug season, when you go to the gas station, there's this horrible smell. What it is it's all of the love bug juice down in the cleaner. You know, the thing you clean your windshield with, the squeegee.
It's gross.
It's full of love bug guts down there, and they all sit out there in the heat and ferment.
Oh, Toledo, Klinger's hometown.
Yep, Toledo, Ohio. That's where Klinger's from. Why is it that I know where all the MASH characters are from? I used to love that show so much. All right, so let's take a look at our storm up here. There's Quebec. Quebec got hit there, and we've got a bit of a sunset going on now on one of our screens.
Well, honey, chiropractor, my back hurts so bad. It needs cracked.
Oh, don't do that.
It needs cracked so bad. It hurts to move.
Take a few Advil.
Want a Tylenol? Oh my god. Want a Tylenol? Would that be foot after taking that already?
All right, let me look here. What do we got? We got Oklahoma, Mississippi. Let's see what Oklahoma we got going on down here. Let's see. Bling. There we go. Some pretty strong storms moving up there, but no cameras out. Is it what is it? Is it the '70s porno stash? Is that why you think I'd be good in Hill Street Blues?
Oi. You got that.
I'm a fireman. I'm going to tell the story behind the mustache. I don't tell it very often, but twist my arm and I'll tell you. Okay, here we go. Here's the story about the mustache. I joined the fire department when I was 17, and I got my paid job there and went through fire school when I was 18. I was very young. At age 20, I was up for promotion to lieutenant. I had already become an engineer. I was pumping and driving the trucks. They had to get a special waiver from the insurance company to let me drive under age 21. I'm driving fire trucks to calls at age 20. I end up passing the test, and I end up getting promoted to lieutenant right about my 21st birthday. Needless to say, I look young. I got a baby face. I look really young, and right off the bat, I put my white shirt on, and now I've got gold bars and a white shirt, gold badge. I'm an officer, you know. I've made rank, and I'm on to my first call. I got my white helmet on. We're out there putting the fire out and everything, and the guy whose car burned down walked over to me, or walked over to one of the other guys and said, "Who's in charge?" And he pointed at me, and the guy said, "You mean that Explorer Scout guy over there?" Because I looked like a kid in an officer's uniform. And I'm sitting in the chief's office a couple days later telling him the story. And he looks at me and he says, "Ian, grow a mustache." He says, "Just grow a mustache." He goes, "From now on, it'll add 10 years. Just grow a mustache, and from now on, you'll be 10 years older." I'm like, okay, I don't even know if it'll grow in, but I'm shaving there, so maybe it will. So I grew in a mustache. It grew in pretty good. And next thing you know, I had no more problems. I'm wearing an officer's uniform. I got a mustache, you know, and I looked more like a 27 or a 28-year-old, somebody that would be wearing a lieutenant's uniform, and it helped me out. And since then, I can't shave it off. The 2 times I've shaved it off, I didn't like myself. I didn't look like myself. I felt like a stranger in my house, and yeah. Robot Tablet, you're correct. I was a firefighter in the tropics. Now, I will tell you, there's nothing like getting out the steam truck to come out and unstick all your trucks from the road so you can drive them home. I get that, and I know that winter firefighting is probably some of the most difficult firefighting you're ever going to do. That being said, I want to qualify what it's like to respond to a large brush fire that has 20 departments fighting it, and you arrive there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 96 degrees outside. It's 82% humidity. It's in the tropics, for God's sake. There's no clouds in the sky. This storm, the brush fire's raging, houses are burning, and we come pulling in there wearing structural firefighting gear, because when I first started, we didn't have brush gear. We wore structure gear to everything. And we were out there fighting this fire, and these guys are going down left and right from heat exhaustion. I myself have gone down a couple times from it, nothing serious. It's bad down here. And none of the trucks had air conditioning, except the first out engine was a new engine. It had an AC unit. But fire trucks didn't have air conditioners until the mid-90s. That became a thing. And of course, most departments back then were driving trucks that were much older than the year we were in, because a lot of smaller departments around here. But we'd go to brush fires or structure fires, and our biggest problem was we'd have to, every 15 minutes, we'd have to rotate guys over and take their gear off and make them lay down on a tarp in the shade and put water on them so they didn't get heat exhaustion and die on us. It was something else. So yeah, I agree, and I'll give them credit. Your firefighters in Minnesota, for Christ's sake, oh my God, I could only imagine getting dispatched to a structure fire and you got 6 feet on the ground and it's coming down and you got a house burning with people inside. I just can't imagine it. So yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I had it bad, they've got it worse. Let's see here. I think we're on the way to peace. Generally, war brings peace. Generally, force brings calm. And I think we're seeing that now. If you look at this logically, okay, I actually don't see this continuing to escalate in the Middle East. I think you're going to see a calming, because they're at the point where they've exhausted so much of what they have to shoot, and now they've lost their nuclear ambitions. And Israel, I think, is interested in just going back and dealing with Gaza. And so I think it's in everybody's best interest right now to just call it right now and just move on. And we may see that. We may see further escalation. They're talking right now. Trump is talking to them, and he's got what looks to be an agreement going on right now. So we're just going to have to hope for the best. Ding ding, the water in fire trucks is water. There's nothing special about it. Some departments add a little bit of a detergent agent in there for several different reasons, for their pumps, and also, believe it or not, just a little bit of soap in the water. Actually, it fights fire better. It removes the surface tension and it fights fire better. But no, the water in the tank on a fire truck is literally just municipal water out of a hydrant, and they can fill up anywhere. Normally we would fill up, if we were empty and we were leaving the scene, our rule was we would fill up at the first safe hydrant and not necessarily drive all the way back to the station to fill up, because we wanted to get the truck back in service as soon as possible. Aquarius, I agree. I'm telling you, I'm not real big on man-made religion, or should I say man-propagated religion, whatever you want to call it. But I very much believe in God, and I very much believe that there's a design to the universe, and I very much believe in reincarnation, and I believe in spirits and souls and soul development. I believe in all of that, and I'm very spiritual, and I believe that the rule of the universe is karma. I do. I believe that if you do good, you get good. If you do bad, you get bad, and that's kind of that works. It's not always fair, it's not always perfect, and it's not always timely, but it always happens. The older foam, we used to use AFFATC, which is a fancy way of saying aqueous film forming foam alcohol type concentrate. You can tell I used to teach these stupid classes. But yeah, alcohol, it's ATF-ATC, it's alcohol type foam. And what it basically does is it removes the surface tension off the water, and the water is immediately allowed to evaporate. And it makes the efficiency of the water evaporation process better. That in itself creates a situation that puts out more fire, because it steams off quicker, everything's happening quicker, it makes it a better fire agent. That being said, that's not the primary reason for foam. Aqueous film forming foam alcohol type concentrate was designed to be used on top of fuel fires. That's why it was originally designed, fuel fires. And when you got a fight, let's say you've got 50 gallons of gasoline burning in a ditch, okay? You can't go up to that with water. Now, if you got 10 gallons burning, a couple of powder extinguishers might be your best shot. But if you got to use water, you got a big fire, water don't put out gasoline. Foam does. What foam does is as you spray over the top, the foam pushes the fire off the top of the water and coats the top of the water with foam. When the top of the water is coated with foam, believe it or not, the fumes can't rise off the gas and the fire goes out. And as long as you shuffle your feet when you have to walk through it, you can walk right through the gas, because it's got this foam layer over the top. Well, the agent that they used to use to keep that foam stable in the truck for all that time, and to keep that foam stable when it's on top of some kind of fuel, some kind of fossil fuel, they have to put chemicals in that foam in order to stabilize it. Those chemicals are now believed to have possibly caused cancer in people. Yeah, and we used to use this foam fairly regular. I will say that we didn't have a lot of money, and that shit was expensive. So literally what we would do, we'd buy it, we'd wait 3 years till it was out of date, and then we would train with it. And that was it. So I didn't do a whole lot with it. We would train with it every 2 or 3 years. We would take 3 or 4 buckets, whatever we had. We'd buy 4 more buckets to replace it. It gets mixed with water using what's called a foam inductor. And the way an inductor works, it uses a Venturi effect, and it actually sucks a little bit of the fluid in. As the water rushes through the Venturi, the tube is in here like this, and it sucks a little bit of the soap out of the Venturi as it's going through. Okay, so that's how you induct the foam into the line that you're sending the water through. And so the tank water is regular water, but then you have an inductor hooked on there that's converting that water into foam. And then as it goes down through the line, it expands. And as it comes through the other side, of the inductor and starts going through the hose, it begins to expand. And by the time it comes out, you shoot it down at the concrete and let the flow just come up over the top of the fire. And that actually is quite effective at putting out fires. I was the training officer for my department for 10 years. I was a paid full-time member of my department, but I also ran the volunteer program. I ran the training program, and I was even fire marshal for a while. And then I was the chief for a couple years at the end, and then I got out of government work. Basically, yeah. Ding ding, they actually have garden systems that use the exact same thing I'm talking about to fertilize your garden. A little venturi that takes just the right amount of fertilizer as the water comes by. They make a lot of that type of stuff. Yep, the law of karma, cause and effect. Ding ding, the new tanks are all made of neoprene, and those tanks, they do very well. They don't scale up, they don't stain up too bad, and they don't get too much crap in there. The old tanks, the old steel tanks, we had an old International Harvester. It was a 1969 International Harvester that had a 1,300 gallon steel tank with baffles. And every 3 years, we had to literally take off the 100 bolts that were holding the lid on that tank. It was a flat lid that went on top, just like the big ore tankers. And it went right on there and it bolted all the way around. We would take that entire metal plate off. We actually had this system we'd set up to where we could lift it off the truck and then drive the truck out from underneath it. And then we would go in there and we would use a substance called bitch mastic. Yeah, that's what it's called, bitch mastic. They call it that because if you get it on you, it's a bitch. And I don't know where the mastic part is, but anyway, that stuff was the nastiest shit I've ever dealt with. But we would go down in there and we would bitch mastic that steel tank, and it would be good for 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden we'd start seeing rust coming out of that tank again. And once it starts that, we'd have to go in there. We'd have to take a pneumatic needle gun and actually go in there and bust all the rust off with a pneumatic needle gun, and then go in and bitch mastic it again. And yeah, it was interesting. I'm kind of knowledgeable in that kind of stuff. Yeah, especially the fire service, because that was my field. I did law enforcement some on the side part-time. I was an emergency manager on the side part-time, and I was a dispatcher for quite a while too. So I've got a lot of experience, both fire, EMS, and law enforcement. So yeah, I literally one day just got tired of the government and I retired, and then I stayed on for 9 months helping the chief that came after me. I stayed on for 9 months to help him get going, and then I walked away for good. You know what? We had fans we set up because we had to blow air down in that tank the whole time so the fumes didn't build up. Yep, you're correct. But remember, it's not a hatch. The whole top come off. So as long as we had fans blowing down in there, we were good. It's real dangerous when there's a hatch and you have to crawl down in the hatch. Those get a lot more dangerous. It's a lot harder to vent the fumes off. No, I'm not. Trust me. I am not a low-key genius. I'm not a genius in any way. In fact, sometimes my stupidity scares me. I'm real smart about certain things. I'm one of these people that masters what I do, but I'm not like overly worldly or whatever. I mean, I study science. That's why I know so much about it. I love science. And the fire service, I literally trained people how to be firefighters. So yeah, I'm sure I can still come up with all the fancy jargon. Do I miss firefighting? I don't miss putting out fires. I certainly don't miss the medical calls. Never was big on medical. Pulling up and people's bones hanging out of their legs and shit. Heads laying in the ditch. Right arm on the left shoulder, left arm on the right shoulder. I got sick of that shit real quick. You know what I miss? I miss sitting at the station watching the football game.
Oh my God.
I miss playing pool with the guys at the station on the pool table. I do.
Sean,
What?
at least say you miss cooking.
Oh, I missed the cooking. I loved it. I was the chef. I was one of the chefs at the station. I cooked every shift. I cooked several meals a day. I would cook lunch and dinner. Sometimes I even cooked big breakfast. I come in and cook on the other guys' shifts. They'd come in and we'd all cook together on my shift. I swear to God, we had like a little Gordon Ramsay going on in the kitchen there. We all had our thing. With Tom, it was seafood. With Rich, it was Southwest, and with me, it was Americana. We all we all had our thing. I know I'm getting old because a lot of the guys I fought fire with are dead now. Tom's dead, God rest his soul, and so is Dennis, who was my chief for many years, and I still visit the fire department. I'm friends with the chief, Larry, out there. I still know a few of the guys out there, but it's changed. I haven't been on that department in 25 years. I've been retired for 22 years now or something. It's kind of crazy. I did it for 17. I didn't do the full career. My back went out. My back was gone. They offered me a deal and I took it because I was done. You get done with the government after a while. It gets to be too much. But my fire department that I worked at doesn't protect the studio here, but they're mutual aid to here, and they're really the second closest fire station. They're not that far, and I love the fire service. It was a very honorable career. Some of my favorite things I used to love doing. We used to do the big haunted houses. We had all the walls that we would go stack up, and then every year we would go and get the walls with this like forklift thing we had, and we'd bring all these big prefab walls, and we would set up this whole maze, and all the kids would come and go through it, and we made a lot of money on that all went to buying helmets and pagers and coats. You know, a lot of people don't realize that your department is volunteer. Maybe your department's a combination department. Maybe it's a big paid department. But regardless, you know, if it's a little volunteer department out in the middle of nowhere, they're literally out there with a boot on the side of the road raising money so they can put pagers on the rookies' sides so that they have a way to contact them to get them back to the station during an emergency. We used to fundraise a lot. We would raise my little department, and I was the MDA fundraise coordinator every year. That was one of my things. We raised over $10,000 every year that I coordinated it, and my department has given over $200,000 to muscular dystrophy over the years. Big supporters. It's not just the union departments; it's the volunteer departments too that do stuff like that. Nope, I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. I never really was a drinker. If I am a drinker, I'm a puker. So it's best I don't. My stomach never really liked it, and considering I've got alcoholism in some parts of my family, I'm glad I never took to it. It's there. That's all I got to say about that. No, it wasn't all bad. I miss sitting at the station with the guys hanging out. That's what I miss. I miss sitting. We used to sit out in the middle of the bay and play cards. We would set up this big square table we had that 6 or 8 guys could sit at this table. It was a little tight, but we could all sit at this table. And we would all sit there and smoke cigars, these big nasty cigars. The smoke would roll out of the bay.
You can't get a good Cuban here in the
Yeah,
States.
yeah. And we would literally all sit in there and smoke these big stogies and play cards. And we would play with chips. And at the end of the night, we would just scrape the chips into a box. They really had no value. We weren't allowed to actually gamble. So what we did was we played for blue chips, red chips, and white chips, and we never assigned a value. And at the end of the night, it didn't matter how many chips you had. We just put them all back in the box. But we used to play, and that was fun. We used to do this thing. The bay was 80 foot long, okay? And the floor was really smooth, kind of too smooth. And the guys used to go out there and they would put Dawn dishwashing soap on the floor so that they could scrub it and clean it and get all the oil and everything off of the tarmac and the flat floor inside the bay. They would get it all soaked up. And the one day I walked out there, and the one guy is standing in the middle of the floor, and he's spinning another guy around on a strap that's like 15 feet long. And he's standing in the middle of the floor, spinning this guy around the floor. I'm like, how is he even doing that, right? Next thing you know, I come out, I hear, I'm in my office, and I hear, ow! You! You! I'm like, what in the F are they doing now? I stood up, I walked out to the door, I opened the door into the bay. They are now running from the back of the property as fast as they can. And when they hit the tarmac, they just go down on their stomach. And they're sliding all the way down the 80 feet of actual bay. And then they would roll off onto the tarmac out in the front of the station and off into the grass. And that's literally, and they were doing this out there. I got in trouble one time because my guys, we got this gas-powered exhaust fan. We thought it was really cool because all of our other exhaust fans take electricity, right? They blow large volumes of air. They're about this big. And they blow massive volumes of air, right? And so what we would do is the guys actually took this thing and they hooked it to the creeper. You know that creeper you go underneath the car with so that you can work on it? It's on like little wheels. They hooked the fan to the creeper. Next thing I know, this thing is flying through the parking lot, and it would go down about 2/3 of the way down the parking lot, and then it would spin out about 3 times and take off in a new direction. And it's flying all over the parking lot, and the people across the street at the grocery store are all watching as this thing's flying through our parking lot, and the guys are trying to catch it, and this creeper's flying around at 40 miles an hour, banging into shit. I was like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing? What are you guys doing? What are you doing? This is as bad as the time you raced the golf carts. Anyway, we were always in trouble up there. It was always trouble at the station. Riding floor bluffers, yes, did that. That's yeah. We did a lot of practical jokes. One of my favorite practical jokes, we did a lot of stuff like short sheeting beds and things like that. One of my favorites we used to do was called trickle time. And what we would do is before the guy would go to bed, we would go into his room. He's already made his bed, right? And there was like a sheet protector above the blanket, above the mattress. We would go underneath there and put plastic on the mattress, and we would cut the end off of an IV tube, and we would leave it on that plastic. We would tape it to that piece of plastic so that it's in the middle of this big piece of plastic. Then we would put the big heavy sheet protector back down, and then we would put his personal sheet back on top of that. And then we would take that IV bag and we'd KVO that, and we would stick it underneath the mattress. It would sit there dry, wouldn't drip a bit until he laid down in the bed. And he would lay there, and that thing would sit there and trickle and trickle and trickle and trickle. And then we'd wait about 2 or 3 hours, and then we would fake a call. We'd make the lights come on, you know, and they'd think we have this call, and they would jump up, and they're wet from their tits all the way to their knees. It was hilarious. Oh my God, that was one of the biggest ones we used to do. Trickle time, yeah.
We used to do the regular lactate.
Yeah.
And with the slow drip on, they'd wake up like they don't piss their
Yeah,
stomach.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, every fire department did the same one. These same stupid jokes. I had a thing in my truck. If you farted in my truck, we had 6 guys in the engine. This was a big engine we had, and it was 6 guys in the cab. If they fart in the cab, this was a funny thing. They always try to fart in the cab to piss me off. I told him, if you fart in the cab, I'm making you walk back to the station. And I made a guy walk almost a mile back to the station in bunker boots one night because he farted up my cab. He gets back to the station like 25 minutes later. He comes walking. He goes, I can't believe you didn't come back and get me. I said, I can't believe you farted in my truck. You know, the camaraderie at a fire station it's very different than what you're used to at probably any place you work. It's different. When you depend on people for your very life, you know, cops say the same thing. Army, Navy, Air Force, they'll tell you the same thing. When you depend on people for your life, it's different. It's very different than when you depend on somebody to, you know, do your register at the end of the shift or whatever. It's very different. And you get a friendship with these guys. That doesn't mean you even hang out with them off duty. You know, I had partners and stuff that I was friends with that I would go spend time with off duty, but a lot of it, for the most part, you know, was just, we were really good work friends, man. We went to work every day. We worked with the same people. We had a good time. We did our work. You know, it was a good time. It was fun. Anyway, I do miss it, but not for the reasons you would think. I do. I miss it for the camaraderie. I miss it for having fun with the guys at the station. I don't miss the excitement like I thought I would. I thought I would have what they call cyranosis, which is the, like, a lot of people will get out of the service, and there's some people that they need the adrenaline. They miss the adrenaline. They miss the siren. They miss the rush. They miss pulling out of the station. I'm telling you something. There's nothing like when you get dispatched to a structure fire, reported people trapped inside, and you get in your gear as fast as you can, and you get in that truck, and your engineer gets in the truck, and your guys get in behind you, and you're going. It's up to you. You're the first due engine. You're the one in there first. And you pull out of that station, and as you make the right turn to go to the fire, you see the column in the sky. And you call in route, column showing from the station, working fire, strike up a second alarm. And you're flying down the road at 62 miles an hour, because that's as fast as that piece of shit will go. I'm giving it all she's got, Captain. I keep calling engineering. It's not doing any good. And it's all you, and the excitement of knowing, and the feeling you get when you know that not only is that a big mess up there, but it's your mess. Somebody else made it, but it's your mess. You have to go clean it up. You have to go, and you have to save what's left. You have to salvage what's left of people's lives, what's left of their very lives in some respects. And it sucks. I used to always tell people, my rookies, when they would come in, I'd say, in this job, you're going to see people literally on the worst day of their life. Every time you meet somebody, it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pissing rain outside. And their world is just coming down. Their mother just died. Their daughter is so ill, she's unconscious. Whatever the case is, their son was just in a bad wreck. And they're having the worst day of their life. And that's the day that I get to meet them. That's the day that I get to interface with humanity. The day that they're having the worst day of their life.
And the firemen, the police, the medics, our first responders, even our military, they have lost that with their feelings. And when they get there, people are upset or they can't concentrate. They're in shock, and they treat them like literal shit. Instead of having the compassion, they're more worried about the paycheck and the retirement system than they are about actually caring and helping people anymore. And I've been on both sides, trust me. And let me tell you, the bedside manner has gone to shit in every department, in every aspect. Don't like what I gotta say, but it is what it is, and I've been on both sides of it.
What she says is correct. We, since the unions have taken over the fire departments down here,
Everything.
EMS, fire, police, they have
Military.
all just become raging pricks.
Yep.
I even talked to my buddies that are in law enforcement and fire about it, and they're like, yeah, I know, everybody
They move
treats
slow.
everybody like shit now. I watched firemen pull up on a cardiac arrest and walk around the truck
we worked
like
in-
Humpty Dumpty. I'm like, somebody's mother is freaking dying in that house,
worked-
and you're walking like a little slow asshole.
We worked this guy for 45 minutes, while 30 of the minutes the medics did nothing. The bag that bitch was carrying weighed more than she did, and then she did absolutely shit and let us kept working. And because They were too busy doing this and pulling out that and getting at the new contraptions and everything else that they had gotten that they want to play with instead of getting there. You know why? Because it's not their loved one laying there. So they left it to the rest of us. Thank God there's people like us that were there that know what we were doing.
Without telling that whole story, there's no way to do justice to that. But there's been a number of incidents lately where EMS and fire just don't seem to care anymore. And our law enforcement around here has almost become downright tyrannical. And this comes from a guy that was a cop at that department. I watched a cop pull over a guy in front of my house. My bedroom looked like a disco, so I went ahead and threw my black robe on and walked out there. And I walked right up to the fence, and he didn't see me. And I'm sitting there watching him talk to this man like he's a piece of shit. And the cop tells him, "Put your cigarette out." And the guy drops his cigarette. He pointed at the ground. "Put your cigarette out," and pointed at the ground. The guy dropped the cigarette on the ground, put it out with his shoe. And the cop just started talking to him about something else. And then a few minutes later, the cop goes and writes him a $200 ticket for littering the highway. And in front of my house, he strokes the Lee County Sheriff's deputy, tyrant, stroked this man, this poor man that doesn't even make $200 a week when he works. This poor man that is literally homeless and was on the way up to the store to get his dinner, and he stops this man and berates him and treats him. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't have a taillight on his bike. That's why he was stopped. And he wrote him a $200 ticket, and then he wrote him a ticket for not having a light on his bike. So now the guy's going to end up with a warrant. He's going to end up in jail, and he's going to end up spending 6 months in the Marcino Marriott or whatever they call the jail down there. And does that do society any good? No. Because now we have to pay for this guy. He was out. He was earning a living. He was doing good. But he didn't have any drugs on him. He had no warrants. He was riding down the road, and because he didn't have a little red light on the back of his bike, you stop him and set it up to where you can write him $280 worth of tickets. That's disgusting. And so I have a real problem right now because I'm retired from public safety, and it was not done this way when I was in public safety. We don't talk to people the way I was pulled over by the cops. I've had my car searched. And I'm a former cop. I told them I was a former cop. They didn't give a shit. They flipped my whole car. There's nothing in there. It's all because I'm driving down the road to my house, which goes through a poor neighborhood. So I get stopped all the time. So all of my public service that I gave to this country and to this county and to this state, I get repaid now by constantly being harassed around here and by watching my neighbors be harassed and be pulled over constantly because I'm driving down a road that leads to a poor neighborhood. Yes, times have changed. When I was in public safety, whether it was a cop, a fireman, or a paramedic, regardless of whatever job I did, we loved the public. We did it for the public. I showed up at your house and I stayed there until we tried to save every picture in your closet. We tried to save every piece of furniture we could. We tried to save every pet, everything we could save. We cared about the people we served. I had 40 volunteers. They gave their time to come in and back us up and help us with these fires because we only had 2 paid guys on each shift. And after all that I've done, now that I've retired from government and it's 20 years later, I don't like the way the government treats us anymore. They don't treat us like they used to treat us. We used to care about the people we protected, and I don't see that anymore. When a cop would pull up, they would be worried about you. What are you okay? What happened? Now all they care about is the charge that they're going to put on you. That's really all they care about. And yes, paid fire departments, they're way too concerned with advanced education, and they're not concerned at all about your physical fitness. They will hire somebody that weighs 100 pounds and is 5 foot tall, and I don't care male or female. They'll hire somebody that's 5 foot tall, weighs 100 pounds, and they'll put them on a truck company, on a primary truck company. Their job is to go in and drag people out of burning buildings.
Or go to try and arrest a man. You go, look, let me tell you, like I said, I'm on both sides of the fence here. Let me tell you, there is nothing that pisses me off more when I see a deputy or a police officer and she's shorter than me and a toothpick. And oh, but she's got the gun and she's a law officer. When you got to pull 2 and 3 men off of another call or off of something because now they got to run down there and save Miss Cutie because she's got rights to be a cop. No, you need to be able to perform and do it. Man, I'm so goddamn. Don't get me started on that shit.
All right, so
Goddamn women.
with me, it has nothing to do with men or women. It has to do with the ability and the size. I worked with women. I trained women. I had women that worked for me at the fire department. They were fine. I also had women that tried out for me that I washed out because they could not drag the dummy. They couldn't drag the hose. They had to be able to drag people out of burning buildings or I wouldn't hire them. If they were a volunteer and they couldn't do the things they needed to do, we created a group called Support Services Division. It was an entire division of people that came out and served drinks and filled bottles and put up lights and directed traffic and did all the things but drag people out of burning buildings and put out fires. And that worked out great because now we were able to utilize all of the people that came in and not just the ones that were physically fit. But now, today, with all this equal hiring and everything, they're getting departments slapped full of people that are not physically able to do the job. Now, they got degrees. They write beautiful reports, 12th grade, beautiful freaking college 3-level.
Well, that looks good on the death certificate.
Yeah, but they can't lift a body and drag it out of a building, you know? Or maybe they don't have any kind of tactics or can't figure things out. None of that matters as long as they got that degree. I agree with you. That's a real problem. Yeah, and again, to me, it's not a male or female thing. I worked with 2 male cops when I was a cop, and these guys were wimps. They were wimps. One of them got their gun taken away, and they got pistol whipped with it. They're lucky they're alive. Another guy, he's this little wuss guy, and he used to walk around like little Napoleon, and he used to pick fights with everybody. He got his ass kicked like 4 times. They finally made him a bailiff.
Yeah, but there's more women that need help and backup than it is men.
Yeah, if you need backed up on every call, then, I mean, come on. I mean, I think we need to get somebody big. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, you're too small to be a road cop. Again, male, female, black, white, brown, yellow, has nothing to do with any of those things. It has to do with size and ability. Size and ability. I don't care about the rest of it. I had every ethnicity and every sex. Well, now there's 42, so I'm not sure. But anyway, back then when there was 2 sexes, I had every sex. What's that?
Somebody's trying to come through.
Yeah, somebody's on the 5-2.
Aquarius just typed out what they were going to say. They might type out more because they wanted to be able to put it in there.
Wow. The legend of the Florida man. You know, we actually joke about that down here. Some of our radio shows down here literally have a Florida man segment where we talk about something that some idiot did. But I'm going to give you guys a little secret. Do you guys know that 80% of people called a Florida man came from somewhere else? I want you to think about that. Most Florida men are actually, Maryland men. They're actually Illinois men. They're actually Ohio men that moved to Florida 4 years ago and then decided to do something really stupid. Now, I'm not saying there's not something in the water down here that makes people stupid. But the whole Florida man thing, literally, you guys have to understand, We have the largest growing population. We have people coming here vacationing from everywhere, and we have people moving here, living here from everywhere. So next time you hear a Florida man, I'm just saying, it's probably a Florida man that moved here 5 years ago from Baltimore.
Hey, easy with the Baltimore comments.
Yeah, I mean, I literally had people apply to be a firefighter that could not lift our lightest ladder. If you can't lift the ladder, how can you be a firefighter? Now you got to crawl up that ladder and drag the asshole out of the burning building and bring him down the ladder.
I am 51 years old, and I can carry 135 pounds on my shoulder, and I do it, and I've done it, and I can carry it on my back. Don't even try me.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I believe in equal opportunity, with one caveat, and that has to be that you are of physical stature and ability to carry out the primary functions of the job. It's that simple. Has nothing to do with anything else. There we go. And there's that. Was there anything else? Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that, Aquarius. Yeah, something a lot of people don't realize about traffic laws, and I'm gonna explain this because this is something a lot of people don't realize. People will say, that kid pulled out in front of my family and my family rolled, and everybody was traumatically injured. They all have permanent injuries for life, and all the kid got was a ticket for running the stop sign. Yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay? It's an accident. Now, it becomes criminal if the vehicle's not legal, the driver's not legal, if he's impaired in some way and still driving, drunk or high or stoned or whatever, those things make it criminal. If you're drinking and driving and you kill a family, that's freaking vehicular homicide. You can do the rest, okay? The difference is, if you ran a stop sign, you literally didn't see the stop sign and you ran, and it literally was, there was no malice. You were not driving recklessly on purpose. That's another thing. The state was unable to prove that you were driving recklessly before the crash. The state can't prove that you were, going way too fast or anything like that. And they can't prove that you were under the influence of anything. Okay? They can't prove that you shouldn't have been driving by some respect, meaning the tag was wrong, the driver's license was bad, whatever. If all of that, if you have nothing there, then what you have is an accident. It's an accident. He gets a ticket. He didn't mean to hurt your family. He didn't mean to hurt you. It was an accident. It was careless. It was ignorant. Okay? And trust me, he's going to live with it just like you are. But the point is they don't lock people up in this country for accidents. Again, if you can prove he was driving recklessly, he was pissed off, he was going 80 miles an hour, you have willful wanton reckless driving, that's a crime. Boom, now you have a felony. Okay? Now you have felony willful wanton reckless driving. If he's drinking, now you got felony DUI. Times 3, 4, 5. You get one for the wreck. You get a DUI for the wreck, a DUI for doing it, a DUI for everybody you injure, and it starts stacking up, and you get shitloads of charges, and you spend a whole bunch of time in prison. It's there. It's designed that way. But if all you did was made a mistake, you dropped your cheeseburger and you looked up and shit, there's a stop sign, and bam. That's an accident. You don't go to prison for an accident. And a lot of people argue, if you do something so careless that you create a bad accident, then that should be criminal negligence. Okay, that's an argument we can have. I don't necessarily agree, But that is a valid argument that we can have. But that's how, at least in Florida and in most states, if not all, that's how they look at it. If there was no criminality to the accident, then it simply was an accident. I don't know if you know it or not, they quit calling accidents in Florida. They're called crashes. Way back in 1995, they changed the vernacular in state statute from accident, motor vehicle accident, to motor vehicle crash. Why? Because if you're drunk, it's on purpose. It's not an accident. If you're suspended license, it's on purpose. It's not an accident. You're going to jail. Okay? If you are willfully and wantonly, recklessly driving down the road, okay, that's crime. You're going to jail. But if it's just truly an accident, if it's an oversight on your part, then you don't necessarily go to jail for that. And seriously, that's all it is. I know it seems crazy. And I'm glad you made it through it. It's hard to do that, especially when you don't have any support. Man, I'll tell you, that's crazy. Okay, you guys are getting into the. I don't do the whole astronomical signs thing. I'm sorry. I've never gotten into that. I don't disagree with it, actually. I just have never really gotten into it. Well, I guess, C. Harper, I guess that's how you look at it. Because I believe there's accidents. If you do everything right and you have a lapse in judgment, or you do everything correct up to that point, and you simply, your foot slips off the brake pedal and your car lurches out in front of somebody, whatever the situation is, there was never intent in your heart to do anything wrong. There was never intent to drink and drive. There was never intent to drive recklessly. There was never intent to do anything wrong, to hurt anybody. There was no intent. And criminality works on intent. If you have an intent to commit a crime, then that's the element. Most crimes, one of the elements of the crime is intent. If you had no intentions of committing a crime, in most cases you don't get charged with a crime. Oh, I don't have any specific questions other than when I said I'd like to know more about that, I did not read the first two posts that you had put in, and I didn't see that it was a traffic accident. But yeah, I think that's what happened in your case. Is the person made a mistake, and the person was 100% legal otherwise, and therefore it was chalked up by the government to simply just be a mistake in judgment.
Look, all I know is I watched Final Destination, and if you really watch that movie and sit back and watch how things work, that shit's real. Yep. Final Destination, dude. Don't worry about the other 1,900 parts, but the first one, that's some crazy shit.
Okay. Whew. All right, we've been on about 2.5 hours now, and we're just basically talking. I do still have we do have daybreak over in Tel Aviv and in Israel, and we're watching that now. The sun starting to just come up over the mountains there in the desert, and that top right image is supposed to be, I believe, out of LA, but now he's gotten in a car and he's just driving away. So these guys just leave their stream on to get the last few hits that they can on the way home. And the center in the top up there, that's Quebec, where a pretty bad storm just went through, and we were watching that there. All right, guys, is there anything else real quick? I am going to call it. I'm going to be on here every night. I'm going to be doing this for a while. I'm going to see if I can generate, a bigger following doing these kind of shows. I'm one of these kind of people that I like to answer questions. I like to talk about things. If I don't know the answer, I'll look it up and we'll talk about the answer, because I like to learn just as much as I like to talk. Yep. All right, thanks, Victor, for the thumbs up. Everybody, a subscribe and a thumbs up would be amazing. I do appreciate that. There's not a lot to talk about tonight. We haven't had any tornado warnings come out in the United States. They've all were in Canada tonight. So a slow night for storms, a fairly slow night for protesting, and a slow night over the skies of Israel, which is a good thing for those folks. I just can't imagine what it would be like to sleep with your children in the next room and missiles flying overhead. I've said that 3 nights in a row now, and I mean it.
We watched
I don't
last
care.
night, the guy in his window watching him go across the sky, and he was like in like the 5th floor.
I don't care if you support one side or the other. I don't care if you're an Israeli and that's your Israeli child in the next room, or if you're Iranian and that's your Iranian child in the next room, or if you're Pakistani and that's your Pakistani child in the next room. I don't care who it is. Could you imagine being that person and wondering if your family will still be a family in the morning? I mean, that's just rough. I don't know. I think about stuff like that. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate all the love in the chat. Thank you. And yeah, I am going to call it. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. I have my host back today at work. He was on vacation. He's back now. So I had a regular day at work today. It's kind of nice to get the band back together. And then I come home and I get 1 hour off. I get off at 7 there. I drive home and I'm on here at 8. So it's a quick turnaround. All right, let's see anything real quick. There you go, Victor. Thank you very much. Victor, my #1 fan. Victor's in every one of my shows. I really appreciate you, Victor. I really do. All right, guys, is there anything else? Nextel. I miss Nextel. We had Nextel here when Charlie went through, and back then, the fact that Nextel stayed up even after a hurricane was amazing. Of course, it was bought out by Verizon. Thank you. Goodbye, Aquarius. Ding, ding, ding. You guys have a great night, Gabriella. Ding, ding, ding. Send me an email. I'll go ahead and send you. I've got one other person that's asked to be a mod, and if you want to be a mod, just send me an email. And if anybody that's been in for a while wants to be a mod, you could send me an email. I'm not really looking for a lot of mods because I don't want a lot of moderation. But I do need a few people watching out, and so if you guys want to do that, just send me an email and say, I'm ding ding ding. I'd like to be a mod, and I'll send you back about 2 paragraphs that will explain the kind of moderation I'm looking for. It's very simple. I'm a free speech chat room, so I really don't want much to happen. If someone starts spamming, I want them gone. If someone puts in links to foreign shit, I want them gone. But people can talk as much smack as they want in here. I really don't care. And I don't care. There's my email address. I just put it right there for you. You guys just send me an email. And like I said, I'm going to make some more mods in here over time. I just want to be able to communicate with you over the email, that's all, and just make sure that you have a couple of paragraphs on exactly what I'm looking for, because I'm not a prick about it. It's actually the other way around. I don't want to be a prick at all. I don't want to do a lot of moderation. All right, there we go. All right, guys, that's going to be it for tonight. Special thanks to Simplex Radio, who's in here supporting the broadcast tonight, and also my wife, Carlotta Alada, who tonight fulfilled the role. There's Simplex Radio. There you go. And my wife fulfilled the role of the peanut gallery. So there you go. All right, guys. Everybody have a good night out there. I hope to see you tomorrow night back here. We'll be on around 8 p.m. Eastern time as always. Last week we were on later because I was working later. But this week and next week will be normal time. So about 8 o'clock in the evening. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Maybe it'll be a little busier out there. Who knows? We'll try it out. We'll see what happens. I hope to see you guys on the next adventure, maybe down the log. But either way, do it here on Starship Adventures. We'll see you next time. 7 3s, everybody. Have a good night.